Today's guest is Laura Smith. She's the Director of Marketing at Ardent. And Laura is a big supporter of mentorship and loves to mentor others, which is why she also volunteers with ACT-IAC as a coach for the Associates 2022 program. And that's kind of how Laura and I met. I actually had not met her before that, but we do have a shared passion for mentoring and really looking out for those who are coming behind us. So thanks for joining me today, Laura.
Yes, it's so great to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be on here, Jeremy. And it's been so great to get to know you through the Associates program.
Yeah, I can't wait. We have another happy hour even this week. So I'm looking forward to it.
Right. It's a great group.
So for somebody who hasn't had a chance to meet you, get to know you, talk to you personally, share a bit about your background, where you're from, who you are, and what you do.
Sure. So I grew up in Florida. I am an avid University of Florida Gator fan, and I'm excited that the college football is coming up. Interestingly, I majored in public relations, but I went into a career in banking after I graduated from college, which was very unusual. Not really my cup of tea, but I have to say that it was a really good experience in terms of learning about budgeting and looking at financials and those type of things. I then left there and went to something completely different. I spent a number of years in the nonprofit sector, working for some very large charitable organizations, including the United Way, as well as Easter Seals, corporate fundraising. So I worked with a lot of the very large companies like Delta Airlines, Disney World, some of those, on raising money for the community. And United Way in particular has a number of, in each area, they fund a number of charities within it's kind of, they're like the collector and then distribute out the funds. So it really made me feel like a part of the community. And it was a great experience, a lot of public speaking and I was young at the time and it really taught me to kind of hone the message. You're trying to get people to part with their money. And so you really have to make the case for it. So did that and then took a few years off and I had my kids and was being a mom and ended up teaching at their kindergarten for a few years, which is interesting. I really have a lot to twists and turns, Jeremy, in my background.
This is awesome.
I did not have a teaching background, and preschool was very short on teachers, and they asked if I would come teach kindergarten. And I have to say it was a very fun experience. And as you know, that age says very funny things. So it was great. And I always tell people, when else are you going to have a job where you just get, people tell you that they love you all day and you're beautiful and you're the greatest thing that's ever happened and bring you flowers and all that. So for some reason, I've never had that again besides the kindergartners. So, and then I stumbled upon a job at ACT-IAC to run the professional development programs. And it was interesting because it was one of those random things that I happened to see on Indeed.com. And I thought, hey, that looks interesting. And so I went to go work for ACT-IAC and I ran at that time, there was only me. So I was in charge of the Associates program and the Voyagers and the Partners, which you know about, Jeremy, the three professional development programs, as well as the Fellows, the alumni group. And that's really what really kicked off my passion for the GovCon industry. I really saw how, bringing together people from government and industry can just make such an impact, and having those conversations and becoming friends with these people, opening up the lines of communication so that you're not just having a sales conversation. It's a personal conversation and you develop these relationships and trusted relationships, which I think is all to the good. And I learned so much about technology and met so many amazing people on both the government and the industry side. And just like I said, really, really became passionate about helping make our government better. So I was there for a few years. I felt like I wanted to kind of advance. I loved it, but I felt like I needed to advance my career. I ended up going to a marketing and PR agency which was interesting because the agency world is very different.
Right.
So I was still continuing to work with some of the nonprofit associations in our industry. I worked a lot with FCA Bethesda and FCA DC. Um, and then I left there and I went to go work for Attain. And I was initially brought in as someone to manage the partner relationships with some of our partner companies and our teaming partners. Shortly after I got there, our federal marketing person left, and my boss, the chief marketing officer, came to me and she said, I think you would be really great at this. Would you take this? And I said, okay. And she said, well, we'll backfill your position. And then as things go, that it was never backfilled. And so I was doing both of those roles. But it really introduced me to a true marketing function. And, really trying to connect what my company was doing to needs of the government and trying to, again, like you've got to know your audience, and it's so critical. It's not just going in and saying, hey, we do all of these things. It's, this is what we do. This is what you need. This is how those two things fit together. And I think it's, being in marketing is really about knowing your audience and being a storyteller. And being a storyteller that knows how to connect with all different types of audiences. Because the way that I might come in and talk to you would be completely different than I might go in to somebody else. So it's that really just understanding the psychology of people, understanding the technology, understanding like the way that you do messaging. So I just really loved it. It in many ways was a natural fit for me, even though I had never done kind of purely marketing before. We went through an acquisition. We were acquired by Maximus, which is a very large company. And I went there and did something very similar, was doing federal marketing. And then got an opportunity to, again, I was kind of at the point that I really wanted to advance. And Ardent had a director of marketing position open, and they were small and had just graduated to kind of a mid-tier company. They had never had someone on the team that was specifically doing marketing. And I thought it was such a great, I thought it would be such a great experience to really go and be able to kind of craft and create a marketing department for them. So I have been there about 3 months, and I love it. And as I was telling you, before we started recording, culture is very important to me. And when I was looking around, that's one of the things that I was looking for. And I always tell young people that I'm mentoring, and many of our associates, I've told them, I say, I know it's easy to look for what the title is, or what the pay is, or what the company name is. It's one of the big players and you want to go work there. But a big part of your success will come from what the culture of the company is, because typically a great culture is going to help you grow, and they're going to be there to mentor you, to help you along in your journey. And I think it's something that I didn't realize when I was that age. And I try to make sure that young people now understand that that's so important as well. So that's a little bit of that's my journey. And like I said, there have been many twists and turns, but I think, as I always tell people, sometimes when you have done many different careers throughout your life, it's amazing what great perspectives you gain from all of those things, and how you're able to put all of those things together.
Wow. And I have some interesting questions. So I'm a guy who has never had to do what you did, which is step away from a career because of children.
Yeah.
I mean, that's scary.
Yes.
And then come back into the workforce. So how did you make that transition work?
Yeah. It was really tough because I've always been very ambitious. I'm very career oriented. My husband at the time had a job where he traveled nonstop. And so it just really wasn't realistic. And so I made the choice to step away, and it was tough. And, it was a very rewarding time to be able to raise my kids and be with them and take them to do things and be there for all the firsts in their lives. But I always knew that I would be going back into the workforce. And, I think it's a really tough decision for parents because there's many times not a good answer. There's no necessarily, it's not black and white, what's going to work. And I think, I also wanted to be I really wanted to be an example for my son and daughter of someone that, was very career oriented and was going to go out there and make it happen. When they were very young, I went through a divorce and I was a single mother. And, I really wanted them to see that example of being able to be independent and going out and getting what you want, and pursuing something that you're really passionate about.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's such a tough challenge. And I think, as workplaces, right, we need to be aware of that and supportive, both of somebody who's leaving the workforce, but also of the people who are coming back into the workforce after that.
Definitely. And, Jeremy, I think it's interesting because now in this kind of post-COVID world, where so many people work remotely, I look back now and I think, well, I could have, I really could have had some flexibility to make it happen. But in those years, if you were not in the office 5 days a week, it was not going to happen. And so I think I'm happy to see that workplaces and it's funny because it got pushed upon us kind of by COVID. But I think it's been a great education for a lot of companies and how people can still be very productive, but also have a balance with their personal life and their life outside of the office, especially in the DC area. DC is very intense. We're all about work. We're all about, working hard and putting in a lot of hours. And I think it's been a good reset, I think, for some people to kind of balance their life out a little bit better.
That's so true. Well, and you mentioned before we start recording that today's an anniversary for you, which is another question. So, this is 5 years cancer survivor.
Yeah.
What was that like when you're trying to manage a career and then you have a major health issue?
Oh, it was amazing. I, had always been someone that was in very good health. My diagnosis came as a complete shock to me. And there was as soon as I was diagnosed, I went into this very fast world of doctor's appointments and surgery and treatments and all of these things. And, I think the thing that helped me a lot was to continue to work and to just take one step at a time. It was what I need to do next. The next thing is going to this doctor's appointment, and the next one is going to this. And it was a very, very difficult few months, but I had so much support from friends and family and from our community in the GovCon space. I mean, it was amazing. I think when you go through something very difficult like that, you really see like people step up. And I was, it made me feel really, really great. And it, I think that experience just gave me such perspective about a lot of things in life and about work. And, a few of the things just to mention kind of that, coming out on the other side, I decided I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to settle professionally. I'm not going to settle personally. I think, when you see your life flash before your eyes, it's a real reset, and then you're kind of like, why should I keep doing something that is not feeding my soul, that is not something that I'm passionate about. And so, that was a big lesson that I learned. Also just be courageous, and go after what you want. And then, finally, Jeremy, I think it's this idea of sometimes really, really bad things in your life end up having some silver linings. And that was definitely the case for me. It was a big reset. It changed kind of my trajectory in a lot of ways. And so it's one of those things that I look back and I think, it was kind of a blessing in disguise. And I talked to many other cancer survivors and survivors of other diseases or accidents or anything else. And so many of them will tell you, like, it's so horrible, but good came out of it as well. And so I'm very, I'm kind of a very motivational person. So I'm always trying to kind of impart this to, to people that I talk to and that haven't really gone through that. And some of the young people that we mentor, and tell them, don't wait for something like that. Go just decide what you want to do and don't settle. Don't settle for something that's not right for you, that doesn't feel right, that's not the right culture, that's not the right relationship even. I tell people, don't settle personally or professionally. It's just, there's no good that's going to come of it. So, like I said, a lot of good came out of that situation. And I am extremely thrilled to hit that 5-year mark. That is, as you know, a very, very big milestone for people that have survived cancer.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it sounds like, going back to when you did college and then jumping all the way forward, you've come full circle. You said it sounds like you're working in the space you got educated for, even though you had some twists and turns along the way. How does that feel? So I know you've only been in this job for 3 months now, controlling your own destiny and crafting marketing for what to me would be very scary, because that small to mid-sized jump is make or break for so many companies.
Yes.
How are you feeling about that?
It's actually great. It's been very exciting. And what I like about it is there are so many jobs that, your day to day, you don't necessarily see the fruits of it right away. And I think I've been able to put some things in place that have paid a lot of dividends very, very quickly. Right now I'm building up the social media. And it's really, really exciting to know that something that you did and that you created is making this big impact this quickly. And, it's funny because you were talking about, I had majored in public relations in college, and then I never worked in public relations. So it's kind of ironic. And I think, so many college students worry about what they're going to major in. And sometimes I tell people, in a lot of careers that you're going to go after, it just doesn't matter. Obviously, if you're going into something highly technical or, something like that, you're going to need to major in that. But of all the people that I know, I talk to so many people and they say, well, I majored in math and now I'm working in public relations, or I have a teaching, I majored in education and now I'm working at a tech company. And so, I tell people it's not, in my opinion, college is a lot about teaching you how to think. And it doesn't have to, don't necessarily just close yourself into thinking that you majored in something, so then you have to go into a certain kind of career. Really explore and think about, what the things that you're interested in, and kind of see what the path would be like for you. And that's why I'm such a big believer in mentorship, because I think, young people in college age or just coming out of college, go talk to people. If you have a field that you're interested in, go talk to people and say, what's it really like?
Right.
What is it really like? What's a day in the life for you? What have you done? How did you get to this point? What would I have to do to be able to get ahead in this world? And I think that's something that, me coming out of college, I just don't think that just wasn't in place. I didn't have kind of trusted mentors that I could go to and ask those questions. But yet it's so important, because when you major in something in college, you have absolutely no idea of what it is actually going to be like, right?
Yeah, you end up finding out most of the education was something for many years ago in your career.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. So as you've gone through this interesting and varied career, what's something that you've seen or witnessed that if we came to you, Laura, and said, we need, what's something you would change if you had the power to change it, or at least had the power to bring it to our attention and say we should be considering a change, what would that be for you?
For me, and this comes from the type of role that I have, but I think too many companies do not pay attention to creating a great culture and a great workplace. I think companies, and of course this has to be the case, are focused on profits, and it's talking specifically about an industry. Obviously it's different in government. But so many companies are very worried about the bottom line, meeting, certain deadlines. And what is happening is that their employees don't feel connected. They don't feel what I call sticky to the organization. And what happens is then when a recruiter calls or somebody else comes along, it's easy to have some of your people taken away. And I think, companies need to start thinking about not just, seeing things with tunnel vision of like, we've got to make these numbers. You have got to keep your eye. And I say, particularly the people that are your top performers, you need to be having constant conversations with them to make sure that they have a career path, that they know where they're going next. A lot of times your good performers are the people that just one day say that they're going to leave, and they leave. And, it's not that there was really anything wrong. It's just that they didn't feel overly connected to the organization. And I think, having really solid career paths that people know you can come in and this is your trajectory. I mean, it can change, but this is kind of a path that you can take where you feel like you know what the next step is going to be. And you feel that your organization values you and is going to listen to your opinion, and it's a collaborative environment, I think is so, so critical. And I think that now where there are many, many open jobs in our, not all over the country, but especially, here in our area, I think companies are learning that, somebody could go be a DevOps engineer at a number of companies. What would make them come to yours? The salaries might be the same. The job may essentially be the same. What are those factors that are going to bring someone specifically to your organization? And I think, companies really being able to articulate that. And that's something that I'm really trying to help my own company articulate. I think that is so critical. And I would like to see more companies really thinking about people as a whole, and not just as this person has this job title and this is the job they do. They're thinking of them holistically, and making sure that they are satisfied in their work and that they are excited about what they do every day.
That's so interesting. I remember almost every job change. It's always been not because the place was bad, although I have some interesting stories. But some of them were because I was looking for that next step in my career, and nobody at my current place articulated that there was an opportunity in that respect.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And, you'll have these really great people in your organization and you almost take them for granted because they just do a great job. They're just plugging along, doing an incredible job. And then all of a sudden they leave. And again, it's not necessarily that they were unhappy, but they didn't see themselves there in the future. They didn't see what their piece of the puzzle would be, when looking at the whole organization.
Now, I'm a big fan of remote work, but it's going to be even more challenging with remote work.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. We talk about that a lot. How do you keep people connected when they are in different cities, different states, different countries even?
Right.
How do you make people feel engaged with your company, and feeling like they're connected to other employees? Because that piece of it it's not just feeling connected to the company as a whole, but it's feeling connected to your coworkers, which I think is another big part of feeling truly engaged at a company.
That's true. So what's next for you, Laura? What's coming up in the near future?
Yeah. So, I'm just always, I'm always kind of looking for that next step. I'm so happy where I am right now. And I think this is a great challenge for me right now to really build a marketing program. I'm also constantly learning. I make a concerted effort to constantly be learning about technology and to be learning about what's going on in our industry, because I think those kind of things help. And I think it's so important to stay involved in organizations like ACT-IAC because it really does keep you connected with what's going on in our world, what's going on in the government, what's going on in technology. And so, I see myself definitely staying in marketing. Like I said earlier in the conversation, I think it's kind of my personality and my natural skills fit very perfectly with that. And I think, I'm lucky to have found kind of a career that's just a really good fit for me. And so it's funny because who would have thought, right? I've been in all these other jobs, and finally, in middle age, I finally kind of land in, what I wish that I was doing all the time. But I think had I been doing it all the time, I would have probably a different perspective, and I wouldn't have had the experiences that I had that probably make me better at my job than if I had not done all those other careers.
That's awesome. Well, Laura, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. You're a joy to be around. You and I can bounce off of each other with our extrovertedness.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you in person soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Jeremy.